Hello everybody, I'm Yang. Welcome to our Tea House program. Today we are going to have a cup of tea with Kailanlucas, General Counsel of GE Transportation China. She will talk about legal environment for doing business in China.
Kailan is a US lawyer with 15 years of cross-border experience in financial transactions. She worked as a private practice lawyer, specializing in corporate securities and M&A around the world before joining GE as regional general counsel. Kailan was born in Shanghai, China, and educated in both China and the US. After passing the bar examination in America in 1995, she worked as a private practice attorney in the US, Hong Kong and London, with prestigious firms, including Skadden Arps in Hong Kong. At Skadden Arps, she focused on China-related capital markets transactions, and while at Weil, Gotshal and Monge in London, she focused on European cross-border capital market transactions. In 2008, Kailan returned to China and joined General Electric's legal team, going on to be nominated as the Regional General Counsel for GE Transportation in March 2009.
Hi Kailan, welcome to our Tea House program.
Hi Yang, thank you for inviting me.
Now I'm going to make a cup of tea for you first.
Great, thank you.
This is green tea called 碧螺春. Do you like tea?
Yes, I do.
How often do you have tea?
I drink tea every day, every morning, because my husband's English. So for an Englishman, drinking tea is part of his life. So we drink English breakfast tea in the morning, every morning, with milk.
Okay, Kailan, you went to the United States in 1987 and you spent about 10 years in America and 10 years in Britain. Why did you choose to return to China in 2007?
There are several reasons. One major reason is I left China when China was just beginning to develop under the Deng Xiaoping's open door policy. I spent about 10 years in America. I went to university there and also law school and worked. In the middle of that, actually I went to Hong Kong. The beginning of 1997, I went to Hong Kong. Then I was a lawyer already in the US, and then so in Hong Kong they were looking very much for lawyers who are bilingual. So I went to Hong Kong, and it was a tremendous time in Hong Kong. It was booming time. So I spent about a little under 2 years in Hong Kong, and then I went to London, spent about 10 years in London. And by the time the 10 years in London, I got married to my husband, and we have 2 children. And so one very big reason for us to come back to Asia was for the children to learn the language, the Chinese language, because they're half Chinese. And I very much want my kids to be able to speak the language like a native person. So I think this would be the major reason, and I think this is the best gift I could give to my children, to give them an understanding of half of their roots. And another big reason is also because after my 20 years overseas, China has become a powerhouse and has developed so much, and there are tremendous opportunities in China. For me, as a career woman, and for my husband as well, who's interested in China and development of China. So I think from both the family reason as well as a career reason, we have made a very good choice coming back to China.
You returned to China in 1997. You must have witnessed Hong Kong's return to the Chinese mainland. What's your feeling at that time?
That was one major reason why I went to Hong Kong, because that year was when Hong Kong was returning back to China, and I wanted to be part of that, part of history. But I think surprisingly enough, there wasn't a dramatic change in Hong Kong before or after July 1st, 1997. Everything went on as usual, business as usual afterwards. So I think China's policy of having Hong Kong as a special zone has been very successful, because the business has not been disrupted at all. People still live the same way as they lived before. Hong Kong, through China, Hong Kong has maintained its role of being a financial center for the world, for Asia particularly. And I think the relationship between China and Hong Kong has been very beneficial mutually. China through Hong Kong has gone, through Hong Kong as an eye to the world, and Hong Kong through China has benefited from China's tremendous growth as well. So I think I was very lucky to be part of the transition from Hong Kong to China.
I know that when you had children in Britain and you opened a school to teach Chinese.
Yes.
How many students did you have then?
Well, let me just tell you a little bit of a background of the school. I'm a lawyer, so I went to London. I continued to practice as a lawyer, and then we had 2 children, one after another. So when I had birth of my last child, Charlie, in 2001, I decided to stop working as a lawyer for a while to spend some time with children. So I want to do something. Anyway, so I thought I want to teach my children Chinese, and there was not a school in central London that I can send my children to. And I thought, okay, might as well do it myself. So that's why I set up the school in central London. Professional women who also, like myself, stayed home with the children. And I discovered, with the rising of China, China is becoming a very important place. And people, especially people in the banking industry, they're very, very much on the China topic. And they want their children to understand a little bit about China. And I think learning Chinese is a very good beginning to teach the children, there's China, and then there's Chinese language, it's very, very interesting. It's very different from English. So when I started the school, when I first opened up, it was about 50 the first day. Wow. And then within maybe a year, it grew up to like 120. But this is not like a major business for me. It's a community that I put together. It's a community that get together people who are interested in culture. So I not only set up the school for the children, but also I organize activities, cultural activities.
How wonderful. And then in 2007, you and your husband decided to return to China. So how today's China different from China 20 years ago?
Much difference. When I left China in 1987, even though it was already a pretty nice, society. 10 years after the Cultural Revolution, open door policy had already started. But China then and China 2007 are very 2 different places. I grew up in Shanghai, and as a city, Shanghai has transformed itself into a multicultural metropolitan city. Unrecognizable. China has developed so much over the last 20 years, and especially I think that over the last 10 years, tremendous growth.
Well, many people left China at about the same time as you, and they chose to stay abroad. You not only returned to China by yourself, but also brought your children back to China. And as you said just now, that you want to give your children a very best gift for providing them the opportunity to stay in China. How important do you think this gift for these children's future?
I think it's very important. Like I said, now China has become a rising power in the world and has tremendous market. And so I think now there's already people already know that the China is going to even become more and more developed and advanced. So I think when they are in their 20s and 30s, in their adulthood, China would even be more important. So I think be able to speak Chinese, understand Chinese, and understand Chinese culture would become even more important to that generation than our generation.
Okay, let's have a rest and have a cup of tea.
Sure.
Our tea is ready.
What is the difference between these 2 cups?
These 2?
Yeah. This
Okay.
tall one and the short one.
This is 闻香杯, you used to smell, and this is 品茗杯, you used to taste the tea. So I'll tell you how to do this. So you can smell the tea first.
This have a nice smell. It's green tea, right? very good.
Okay, Kailan, when you first took position in GE, you joined the establishment of joint ventures in China. What is the most exciting part of that project?
When I first joined GE Transportation, I was immediately involved in a very exciting joint venture project that is between GE Transportation and CSR, which is Southern China South Rail Company, which is one of the biggest rail companies in China. The reason for that joint venture was because back in 2005, GE had transferred some technology. We call it evil technology, and it's for the manufacturing of locomotives. And the evil technology is very environmentally friendly, and it's low emission and low energy cost. So China wanted to have that technology, and the locomotives for hauling goods, not people, not passenger rail. It's for goods, yeah. So now, back in 2005, when we transferred the technology, we transferred about 75% of technology. So there's still 25% of technology that GE still retained. And this joint venture was to further our cooperation with CSR. And so we then transfer more technology. But this time was to transfer into a joint venture with CSR. And this is to cement our relationship with CSR, produce high quality and technologically advanced, very crucial parts of the locomotives. So I was involved in this project for a year, I would say, and many months were spent in intense negotiations in Changzhou. Our partner is in Changzhou, and towards the end of the project, we were all locked up in this hotel far away from the city, and because they wanted us to spend time together and forget about everything else and reach an agreement and be done with this project. So we had some, a few weeks of very grueling negotiations. Day in and day out, we would go into this meeting room and talk about the contracts. There were many contracts for this joint venture establishment, and this was a very exciting project because it was my first project in this position, and it was very one of the most important projects for GE Transportation.
And from legal perspective, what is the most important thing that the international companies who want to establish a joint venture in China should be aware of?
I think it's selecting your partner is the most important thing. Doing due diligence on the partner and as well as on the product that you're going to make. The partner that you're going to have business with is going to be a long-term partner, because in China it is very difficult to unwind a JV. If you establish one, it's very difficult to unwind it. So it's very important to select the right partner that has the right goals and objectives of the business as you do, and have the same kind of approach and strategy towards the market. And in terms of the product, the Chinese market is very fast-paced. So the product that you're trying to sell today may be obsolete tomorrow, or the price may be wrong tomorrow. So you have to do a very in-depth study or due diligence of the things that you're making in China. Because once you establish the joint venture and you're ready to go after a year or two of establishing, building the building up and ready to go, maybe this product is no longer at the price that you're thinking of selling, because the market has moved on before you can catch up. So that's why I said in China it's not so easy, right? Because you're a ready market to sell, a ready product to sell, it's maybe easy. But if you wanted to build something in China, partner and the product and market research, those things are very important.
Let's have another cup of tea, and after another cup of tea, we will talk more about the legal environment of doing business in China. This is flower tea. And this is green tea. Later we can compare the difference of the color.
Okay.
Now you can see.
Yeah. This is green tea. This is flower tea.
Yeah. You can try the flower tea. Hi, Kailan. You have been working in China for about 4 years. What is the overall legal environment for international companies doing business in China?
In some ways, it's easy. In some ways, it's very difficult. So, in China, it's a very different system than in the U.S. or in England. For example, in England, if you want to set up a company, you can just do it in one day. You sign up. It's internet. In America as well, it's very easy to set up a company. And in China, I don't know how long it takes because I in fact tried to set up a company, and you go to Gongshangbu, and they give you a stack of documents because I now hold a foreign passport. It's not easy to set up something on your own. I think it's very difficult. It really discouraged me to even do a very small thing in China. Something as simple as set up a company in China. And in some ways, it is easier because less rules, less cases. You know, they're not in America, especially. It's a very litigious society, meaning people like to sue each other. And here, relationship is very important. You sometimes can solve a lot of problems by talking to people, and everything's solved. And contractual disputes sometimes can be resolved by talking to people, have a dinner, or have some tea, and talk it over. But in America, it may not be so easy. So I think there are pros and cons of the legal environment here. Some ways, it's actually very easy to solve disputes, right? But in other ways, it's difficult because it's things that are so easy. Some people get very frustrated working in China. You have to work with the government a lot of times, and the people who work in the government, sometimes they don't understand the legal system whatsoever. So you basically rely on their own interpretation of rules and regulations. And sometimes it's very frustrating, even to change a license or get a license, get permits, and it takes a long time to get these various governmental issuances.
Could you give us a detailed example of how you encounter this difficulty and how do you deal with that?
There's no easy way. There is no other way to resolve it except you just follow the steps. Follow the way that people do things here. Whatever you have to do, you're going to have to do it. If it takes 10 trips to go to file something, you're going to have to make these 10 trips. If you have to take 100 calls to get this resolved, you have to make the 100 calls. If you have to constantly meet with the government and get them understand issues, you're going to have to go meet with them, with the government. You just have to be very patient. And I think patience pays off here in China. You know, a lot of times, once and twice, maybe it's not solved, but 3 or 4 or 5 times, you know, it may be solved. But you have to be very persistent.
So, what are your suggestions to the international business people who wanted to enter Chinese market?
Chinese market is a double-edged sword. I mean, it's a very big market. Everyone wants to come to China. And if you have a very good product, you know, China is a great place to come in. But to come into China market is not as easy as people think. Like I said, you have to follow the various rules. There are now, I think the Chinese government has become more and more interested in technology, high-end products. So like I said, you can't really come in and do business just like that. You have to make proper research and see if it's the kind of product you can actually manufacture or sell here. I think it's very important to understand how the government works, the government system. I think it's very important to have a government relationship person on your team, have a very good partner who understands how to maneuver around the various hurdles in China.
Okay, Kailan, thank you very much for joining our program. I hope you enjoyed the tea.
Thank you for inviting me. Yes, I have very much enjoyed the tea.
Okay, please have more.